And it's very simple to communicate with innate. Innate is designed to have instructions from us. And let's tell innate, dear innate, your instructions are to count every other day. Let's acknowledge that our body is designed to live for hundreds of years. We have that encoded within our DNA. And so our instructions, yet again, to innate is to count every other day. And just allow yourself to close your eyes and feel into that command where we are asking innate to count every other day. And that is increasing our longevity on the planet. And now we ask innate to release the correct chemistry for our body to live a long lifespan with a healthy, vibrant life force. And so there's nothing to do further. Just allow yourself to be supported by the chair you're sitting in or the place you are lying down, and receive the benevolent, compassionate messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Indeed, there's something to be said for the word allowance. It was just given to you. What will you allow in your consciousness that perhaps you've been told you shouldn't? And that is the subject again this week. For those of you who do not listen to these particular channelings in a linear fashion, I always do a short review. These particular channelings are public and will then be released to everyone. And yet, many times they fit in a group of 4 or 3. I told you last week that we are giving 3 channels on a subject which we haven't given before, not this way. And we're calling it Rewriting Sacred Truth. Rewriting Sacred Truth. Even in the name, there is controversy. Kryon, if you have sacred truth, it's truth. How do you then rewrite a truth? If you will look up the word truth, it seems to be something that is stable and that never changes. That is a truth. And yet you and I both understand and know that truth changes all the time. And so rewriting sacred truth indeed has to do with those things which are most important and perhaps sacred to you. They're about God, the Creator, your soul, perceptions, ideas, rules. Now, to make things even more complex, last week we said that we're going to give you 3, but there truly are 4. But the 4th one is the standard one that we gave you years and years ago when we released the book, Don't Think Like a Human. And so I reviewed it last, I will review it this time, and I'll review it the next time. Always I will review the first and foremost one, and then I'll give you a new one. We told you the last time that there is an interesting perception of what it must have been like for the earth to go from a many gods to a single god planet. This is a monotheistic planet where over 80% of all humanity intuitively now understands one creator. Now, this is just the first level of, I would say, sacred maturity. The next level is a monotheistic earth that allows all humans to worship the way they please, instead of fighting them for the best way to worship a one God. That will come. But put yourself on a planet where there were always multiple gods, and the sun was always a god, or the moon was always a god, or the earth or the wind, and they were worshipped as though they were a god. And so you had multiples. And then even when you got into elegant societies, there were multiples. Some of the most elegant societies you had, the Greeks, there were multiples, and they were very human. And that all went gradually to a monotheistic earth, one God, one creator, and you understand and start to see the love and the compassion. Tell me, what was truth? Was truth many gods, or was truth one? It was a sacred truth. Wars were fought over it. But it wasn't accurate, not really. The perception of human beings can change with awareness and a higher vibrating earth. And you go from old things and old attitudes and old ways of thinking, and it becomes clearer. The veil lifts a little bit, and it becomes clearer. And so the planet went to that stage slowly, where they went from many to one. It's interesting to look at what truth truly might be. Does it push the envelope in your perception and mind, in your questioning, to go to the next level and say, what else might there be that might clear, so that the truth of the one God becomes even more spectacular? Now that you know that there's one creator, there's an entire lineage of perceptions and grandness and attributes that we begin to teach about the one. So we begin that. Last week we gave you one. This week we give you another. Now, in some ways, we have given you this kind of information before. But now we put it into a package and say, it's time to rewrite what you thought. And this is tough. Not just tough, controversial to the max. Even to those enlightened ones who listen right now. I'm going to step on some of that which you were told. God is the same yesterday, today, forever. You'll hear this yet again. God does not change. The Creator does not change. The love of the universe does not change. What changes is you. As the veil lifts, awareness is sharpened. As you learn things you didn't know before, that has a tendency to rewrite what you thought you knew before. Do you understand? No more sensitive is this to those who perhaps are not sacred, not enlightened necessarily in spiritual things, but still have protocols which are almost like sacredness to them. Let's say you're a physicist and you learn all about the physics of the universe. Let's say you're a biologist or a doctor, a researcher. And what you see in front of you is what you've learned, and you've gone through schools to get there. You think you know what the chemistry is, you think you know how the body operates, and you've done it long enough. so that every time you approach it, you get what you expect. And then suddenly, something comes along and requires that you rethink it all. Now, this has happened in science over and over. It's happening today in science. It's happening in physics. 150 years ago, you would say, well, that's a long time ago. Actually, that's the average lifespan of two human beings put together, 150 years. That's only 2 human lives. Average lifespan. 150 years ago, it was revealed finally through a series of perhaps 4 or 5 human beings about bacteria and germs. The germ theory set everyone on their ear. Imagine. Let me use the words that they used. Little creepy crawlers that you can't see were actually there and creating infections and disease if you didn't do certain things. You might say it started with Louis Pasteur and then went from there to be validated and experimented more. But germ theory, this did not sit well when it was first presented to anyone. It was laughable. Little creepy crawlers, little bacterium are going to be there. That's the problem. Interestingly enough, even before his work, those on the battlefield knew very well that if you wanted to keep infections from happening, you took a little boric acid, or better yet, some whiskey. Just pour it in the wound, and that'll work. And it did. A little painful, but it did. It kept away what they now were finding were the little creepy crawlers. What I'm telling you is that a whole generation of medicine, of training, of doctors had to take a deep breath and buy into something they never expected. They had to rewrite something sacred. How they learned it was not going to work anymore. What they did or what they thought they would do to keep infections from spreading is now seen as laughable and barbaric. Germ theory was the way of it. Get ready for one of those. I'm going to tell you right now, dear ones, that there is a lot of what has been taught to you as negative things that are sacred. You didn't expect this, and I'll tell you. What do you know about the energy of sacredness? Here's what you've been told. It's fragile. So you better clear the area before you go in there. It's fragile. So if you're a practitioner, you got to make sure that you do the clearing here and there. And be careful, because you might have a patient, and that patient, if they have some kind of a dysfunction, and you're going to work on them, and especially if it's mental or something, you're going to catch it, because there may be some evil in them that's going to go right to you. So be careful. In fact, even before they get there, you might clear here, you might clear there, you might do some things. You grew up with this. Then there are the others who say, well, you got to step carefully. Like being sacred is some kind of a field with landmines on it. Be careful you don't step over there, because there's a rule against doing this. Make sure that this is done before you do this, because, if you don't, you know what's going to happen. Do you really think that the creative energy on this planet is fragile? I want to tell you something. None of those things in this new energy are true. None of them. I will give you a visualization. I will give you something I want you to always remember. And here is the truth. In this new energy, light is winning. And that light starts with the light worker, and the light worker is listening to this program right now. Listen to me. Imagine that Merkaba or yours is a sacred bubble. See this bubble around you. Any bubble you want to. See it around you and paint it gold. If you have a black and white piece of paper, draw you as a stick figure. Draw a circle around it and make it yellow. It doesn't get any more clear than that. You have this around you. It is your sacred soul consciousness. And wherever you walk, you push darkness away. Klein, wait a minute. Are you telling us there's no evil in the planet? Here's what I'm going to tell you. Get ready for controversy. There's no evil entities beyond the veil with red tails and horns who are out to get your soul. There is evil on this planet, and it is created through the consciousness of human beings who are taking it there on purpose collectively and creating the darkness. Yes, there's evil. It doesn't come from beyond the veil. It comes from here. But what you have comes from beyond the veil. It comes from that soul of yours that we visit in the Circle of 12. And I'll tell you, you push everywhere you walk, the darkness will run from you. Try it. If you're used to clearing, let your own Merkaba clear as you walk forward. For the last few years, my partner has been traveling. And everywhere he travels, whether it's here or whether it's in foreign lands, he stays in a hotel. He stayed in hotels which were older than your country, than the country here, the country of America. And he asks himself, what has happened in this room before he opens the door? And the answer is almost everything. He used to clear the rooms. He used to have others clear before he would go in, because these are the places he sleeps in before he goes and channels. And I told him to stop it. It rewrote his sacredness, and he gasped when he said, stop it? And I said, when you walk into the room, it will clear itself because you will push light into it. And anything inappropriate for you will leave that room because it cannot exist there with your light. Did you hear that? Dear ones, things cannot exist which are inappropriate in your field, in your body, with a high consciousness. Are you hearing this? Rewrite the sacred truth that says you're in trouble if you do this, or there are negative things over here, or be careful of this, because that's not true. What is true is that there is only light and love and beauty and benevolence and kindness, if you want it, in this bubble that you push of benevolence. Wherever you go, the darkness cannot exist. That's the message. And so it is.